In today's video, we're going to be making this beautiful butterfly box. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I've got a really fun project I want to share with you today, and this is the reason why I'm making this project. My husband bought me this beautiful bookmaking kit for my birthday, and it comes with a whole bunch of tools, and it comes with this book press. So what you do is you put your papers inside of the book press and you apply your glue or adhesive, and then you tighten all these little bolts and press it down until the glue dries and it binds your book together. Now, all of these tools came in this kit. So there's some needles, a book awl, some wax sewing thread. We've got some finger cots so that you don't stab yourself, some binder clips, needle threading things, a bunch of bone folders for different purposes, a metal ruler, and some bookbinding cloth. You get quite a bit of this cloth in the kit here. This is for gluing around the paper to create a nice sturdy spine. So you attach your glue and you put all of this into the book press and press it down until the glue dries, and then you have a really nice tight spine on your book. Let's get into the reason for this video. All these tools just came in this clear plastic bag, and I want to have a spot to put all of them. I have this little box and it looks like a book. It's a nice sturdy box and it has a magnetic closure and a little felt lining on the inside and nice and sturdy. And it's just Christmas, and I love Christmas, but I don't want to have my tools in a Christmas box. So I'd like to cover this up to make it a little bit more pretty and then put all of my tools inside of it. So I have a nice place to store them, and then I repurpose this old box. So everything fits in here nicely. I'm going to use some Mod Podge and napkins and turn this into something very pretty. So this stack of napkins here was given to me by one of my subscribers a couple of years ago. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I think it was Bonnie. But she sent me these napkins and I haven't ever used them. I'm going to go through and pick out which napkin I want to use later, but first I need to prep my box. So I don't want this pattern to be seen through my napkins, so I'm going to use some white acrylic paint, and I'm going to cover this whole box with this white paint. I've got some scratch paper here that I'm going to use to protect my work surface. I'm just going to take a large paintbrush to paint over this. I'm not worried how pretty it looks. I just want to get good coverage of that white acrylic paint to cover all of this pattern up. I ended up doing 2 full coats of this white paint so that everything was covered up nicely and it was prepped and ready for my beautiful napkins. I want the napkins to really be the star of the show here. So here's my box all finished and ready to be covered. And the inside, I did get a little bit of paint on that felt surface. I'm really not too concerned about what that looks like. I just wanted to get the paint down, and we'll start with the napkins. So I decided on these nice big large butterfly napkins. It's kind of a little vintage and I like that, so I think it's going to match nicely with this project. So I just need to separate the napkins. This one ended up having 3 plies, so I just have to pull away that white backing, and I can save that white backing for another project. We won't use that today, but I'm just going to put them off to the side. So I've got my napkin all prepped and ready. I'm just kind of figuring out how I'm going to lay this down. And I think I'm just going to kind of line it up onto the center of the box and leave a little bit of overhang around the sides so that if I want to, I can kind of wrap it around the edge, but I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet. So I'm just going to start by putting my napkins down. I have this bottle of Mod Podge, and it's a glossy finish, I believe. And this is a water-based glue and sealer. So I'm going to start by using a silicone brush and just spreading out that Mod Podge to create a nice thin layer to coat the top of this box. I don't want big, huge globs of paint because it's going to be hard to sort of smooth it out. So I'm just using that silicone brush to brush out that Mod Podge, and then I'm going to lay my napkin over top. And you really want to take your time here because you only get one shot on laying this down. If you want it to be perfect, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be bubbles and wrinkles and stuff because it's napkins and they're very thin. So, and also don't overwork your napkin because the more you work it, the better chance you have at tearing it. So I'm just taking my silicone brush and just lightly brushing over the top just to smooth out some of those air bubbles and get my napkin laid down as flat as possible. And then once I'm happy with the placement there, I'm going to take another layer of that Mod Podge and seal the top of it. So I'm just going to squirt it out. I tried putting it on my brush at first, thinking, you know, I was going to protect the napkin, but it just wasn't working out. I ended up having to squirt it everywhere, just like I had done the paint. But I just kind of moved quickly and didn't overwork any areas too much and tried to get right to the edge. I wanted a full coverage of the top of this box. And once the napkins sort of get wet, you'll see here, I was working on the edge here and the napkin starts to tear. So I kind of liked that because it just helped me work through it. And I just tore off those edges, and then I grabbed some scissors to get the back part that was hanging over because that napkin wasn't wet back there. It wasn't glued down. So I'm going to go through and cover up the whole box like this. This part here, I didn't have to cut away. It kind of fit perfectly where I needed it to go. So I just applied a little bit of Mod Podge on that underside, tapped it in with my brush, and then pressed in that napkin just to get it wrapped around the lid of the box. Now this project is most likely going to look distressed. It's not going to be perfect. It is what it is. I really like the end result. So in order for me to continue working, I needed to dry this a little bit. I wanted to help that Mod Podge sort of dry around the edges so that I could flip to the other side. I'm a very impatient person when it comes to multi-steps on projects. I like to finish everything in one shot. And this may not be the case because you have to paint it, let it dry, Mod Podge, let it dry, and so on. So it did take me, you know, a little while. I think this project went over 2 or 3 days just because I wanted it to sit and dry before I moved to the next step. I'm going to start working on the back part here. I had cut away that excess napkin so that I could lay down one whole piece across the back. So here we go. Here's our finished box, all done. It's got that beautiful shine. It's right to the edge on all the sides. You'll see where I added those little strips in. When I open up the box, you'll see it better. I add little strips around the edges. And again, it's not perfect on the inside, but I'm not really too fussy about that. I'm okay with it. It's going to work perfect. So all my tools fit in here perfectly, and we have this gorgeous little box. I really, really like this project. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So I put all my little tools in there, and these little snips fell out of their package, and I think it's probably safe to keep them in the package because they're really, really sharp. The last little thing, I had this idea. I had a scrap of like a faux leather. It's like a felt-backed leather or pleather. And I just wanted to create a little pocket. I thought it would be kind of good to put my little needles inside of there. So I cut a little piece of that fake leather, and I think it might even be vinyl, like a vinyl with felt on the back. So I cut a piece. I want to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the box when I close it because there's a magnetic closure. I don't want to add any bulk around the edges. So that it'll just fit right inside of that box nicely and still close. So I'm using some Eileen's Fabric Fusion. I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue around the 3 sides, creating a little spot for a pocket. I also put a little bit of glue in the center just to help strengthen it a bit so it ends up being 2 little pockets. And I'll just use my grid mat to line that up, make sure it's good and centered, and apply that glue. So I'm just going to get that laid down. Now, I wanted to show you stuff inside of the pocket, but the Eileen's Fabric Fusion wasn't adhered all the way, so I need to put something heavy on it and let it sit for a while. But it's already taken me too long to make this video, so I'm just going to leave it alone, and we're going to call it done. I'm going to put all my tools inside of here, save that pocket for another day, and this beautiful project is done. I really love the way this turned out. I love distressed and vintage looking things. You could go the extra mile and maybe distress around the edges, make it a little bit more fun, whatever you want to do. But I'm happy with the way this project turned out. Okay, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope that you got some inspiration to upcycle a box or two with some of your maybe napkins or paint or whatever you want to do. Just get some stuff out, get crafty, and have some fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I appreciate the support as always. Coming up on screen are some videos I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!